Hey guys, Rich from Richmond Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. It's Tuesday. That means another transmission from Atomic Mass Games. Now, some of them, if you've seen the previous video that I uploaded yesterday with the interview with Will, we already knew about. However, we've got brand new character cards for certain members of the Black Order. And once again, joined by Quinn. Quinn, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm glad there actually are spoilers today.
I think everyone was getting a little bit worried, wasn't we? It was like, it's 3 o'clock, it's 4 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock, but yeah.
I mean, for each of those hours, I was constantly refreshing the transmission page. Come on, come on, come on!
Cool. So guys, we've got a few different things to go through here. It's Black Order as a whole. So as they've done with like the Guardians, they've picked the Black Order characters that are going to get changes. Some that definitely needed them. Others that maybe had little tweaks here and there. But Quinn, starting with the first one on the page, and I think the character who, or at least the duo of characters that probably caused the most problems in the game, even over a year since they're released, and that is the husband of the husband and wife duo, and that is Corvus Glaive.
Yeah, I mean, Corvus Glaive, his alter ego is Corvus Glaive. I feel like his superhero name should just be Bane of my existence.
So Quinn, let's start with his base stats as we always do. Now, I thought he may change threat. He hasn't. He has stuck as a 4. So I thought with Bullseye, I thought when they announced with Bullseye that he was going down to 2, that opened the doors wide open. But I think it makes sense keeping him as a 4. So let's look at his base stats then. And surprisingly, Quinn, 3-4-3 up from 3s across the board, but only on his healthy side.
Which is super weird, because the only other character that kind of changes defensive stats is Goblin, I think.
Yeah. Which I think makes sense, right? Because his whole psyche becomes completely different. But yeah, really, really surprising to see that. Still 6 stamina, front and back. Still a medium move, still a size 2. His strike hasn't changed whatsoever. His atom splitter as well, Quinn, I don't believe has changed.
Nope.
But his death blow, as we've seen with all of these flurries, has got an extra trigger. But what's unique about this one is, as well as the wild, instead of needing a crit, it's also a block. Now, Quinn, I'm assuming this is because of the reality gem and just making it too good.
That same old problematic gem that they haven't touched. Grumble, grumble, grumble.
And then, as we move down his card, everything else will stay the same, with the exception of Husband of Proxima Midnight. Now, there are 2 things that have changed with this. First of all, it has increased from a 0 cost to a 1 cost, and the range has actually decreased from range 4 to range 3. Quinn, I'm a massive fan of these changes. I think it was too powerful. It was complete control of priority in the game, and it cost nothing to do it. And I think now that 3 becomes a little bit more restrictive. You can definitely play around it still if you're playing Corvus and Proxima.
In the middle of the board fighting people, sure. I think this will probably lead to you seeing Proxima being the first one to activate a lot more often, because she can reposition better with the spear throw.
Yes, she can. And the likelihood is that you don't want to use an action on Corvus to get him into position to be able to then, activate his wife. The one thing I do like about the 1 cost on this is, especially as a Brotherhood player and a adamant lover of Scarlet Witch, No More Mutants will now work on this superpower, won't it? Because it now costs a power, which it didn't before because it was 0 cost. Weird ruling that even though it was reactive, it didn't work, but now it will because it costs a power. Therefore, yeah, tough shit. You don't get to use it anymore. So Quinn, everything else on his flip side remains exactly the same. Thoughts on the changes? Does it bring him more in line?
Yeah, it's definitely an improvement. Obviously, I would have liked him to be thrown in the bin and set on fire, but, we can't do that because then you can't sell models of him. I'm a very big fan of the block requirement on the death blow. It being a crit would have been it effectively wouldn't have affected Corvus at all, like it does Valkyrie and Medusa. This is a really nice, eloquent way of getting around that. Husband Proxima Midnight going down to range 3. It'll probably be a corner case kind of thing a lot of the time, depending on what crises you're playing on with Black Order. But yeah, overall, I'm very happy. I'm happy that he got changes. I'm happy that he got anything at all, because I was worried that they just lead them.
Yeah, that was the concern, wasn't it? Especially with well, I think we thought one of two things was going to happen, wasn't it? Because let's just be honest, guys, because Corvus, as a 4 threat, his old card, without the reality gem, he was a good, solid, I would say, B plus, A tier character. It was really that combination, wasn't it, of Corvus with the reality gem that was broken. So because they're not changing the reality gem, this feels good that they've done something to him at least.
Yeah, it's that whole thing that I keep going on about of like, in a game with dice that are as random as they are on MCP, being able to have consistently count 7 out of 8 faces on the die as successes is
it's too much.
It still is a bit much, but like there are things around Corvus that are changing that hopefully will bring that more in line, or at least make him less prevalent, because then I don't have to play against him and I'll be happier with my life.
Yep, absolutely. So let's then go on to the second half of the duo. So wife of Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, also known as Proxima Midnight. Now I'm just looking down her card, Quinn, and I can't see any changes other than the exception of the 1 power on wife of Corvus Glaive, and then obviously that limitation of range 3 down from range 4. Is there anything I've missed there, or has everything stayed the same?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, it looks to have stayed the same. Which, to be perfectly honest with you, she felt like a perfectly balanced, 3 threat for me. If anything, probably as an isolated character, a little on the sort of underside of the bell curve. She definitely wasn't, the upper echelon. It wasn't until you partnered her up with a husband that she became a really good 3 threat. So yeah, overall, happy with that. I think because you almost have to treat them as a pair, don't you? Like, it's very rare that you would take one without the other.
They are like, so effectively, Rocket and Groot are like a 5 threat character. Proxima and Corvus are like an 8 threat character.
An 8 threat, yeah. Quinn, on to the big one.
The coolest one.
We have said, haven't we, time and time again, he is the worst. Not even just the worst X threat character in the game. He is the worst character in the game.
This is a really interesting one, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, that thing hasn't changed, and that thing hasn't changed, and I'm like, I'm slightly worried.
So Quinn, Ebony Maw, aka Ebony Maw. Let's go and start, as we always do, on his stats. So he was 226 previously on his front. He's now gone from 226 to 246. So he's gained 2 energy defense. Now, Quinn, we've spoke about, and actually you've mentioned a number of times, how energy has quickly become the new Mystic, in that it's the defensive type that characters have the least defensive capabilities of. So what do you think about him going up to a 4? That's a pretty good jump.
I mean, I'm just glad he's not got 2 2s now. 2 2s is death sentence in this game most of the time.
For a 5 threat character, it really, really is, isn't it? It really is. One thing I'm noticing straight away is he doesn't have any way of generating power once again. So Black Tongue, Black Tongue has gone up from 5 to 6 dice,
which is nice,
which is okay, but still only 1 power guaranteed, which it feels very meh.
But as we'll see a little bit later on, he no longer has the most expensive part of his kit.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Herald of Doom, by the looks of it, has remained exactly the same. Now,
Go on.
I was just going to say, I've got to say, a bit disappointed that it's size 2.
I was going to say exactly the same thing.
Because in my mind, there are two different types of throws in this game, aren't there? There are,
there's like
there are Thors and
pick up the
Hulks.
thing,
Yeah, there are
and
Thors
then
and
there's the
Hulks.
like mind bullet throws, right?
Yeah, and for me, mind bullet throws, you should always be able to do more than the size of you. Like
it's a mind over matter thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. So
oh wait, he literally has a thing called mind over matter, and it doesn't do anything like that.
So
if I hadn't mentioned that, people might have thought I was being clever.
So telekinetic powerhouse looks like it's exactly the same. Size 4.
Still,
throw it long,
throw but longer range, which I mean you'll happily take.
And then a brand new superpower, telekinetic deflection. If this character would suffer a collision, it may use this superpower. This character does not suffer damage from this collision. It costs 2 power though, which it feels, he's not going to be able to do it very often, is he? However, the other side of his defenses, so mind over matter, which was reactive, that did cost 2, has now moved to an innate ability, and it's kind of switched round, hasn't it? So rather than him having like what Magneto has, where he pays the power, gains extra defense, the opponent has to pay 2 power, and then he gets to use his mystic. Sorry, the opponent has to pay 2 power, otherwise he gets to use his mystic defense regardless of the attack type, which I think overall is probably better. Punishing your opponent is good, I think. Telekinetic deflection feels good because one way that you would get around circumvent a character like this is just pick them up and throw them, right?
Or
throw something into them, and this kind of gets round that.
It's sort of a replacement in terms of like the power spending. Like in terms of Moore's power economy, it used to be he had to pay a bunch for his defenses. Now he doesn't have to pay for defenses, and instead he has to pay to stop throws. And I think unless you're playing Brotherhood, throws are a lot less prevalent than attacks are. So it is a much better change.
No, I agree. Incredible psychic potential, so he just gets 2 additional power, remains exactly the same. And then obviously he's got flight, and he can have either the mind or the space gem. Only one of them though, only Thanos can have 2. And then we go to his backside of the card, and everything remains exactly the same with the exception of that stamina. And I believe Quinn has gone from 4 to 6.
4 to 6, so an increase of 2 stamina, which is it's what you want to see.
It was very much needed, wasn't it? Especially with those extra defensive capabilities now, he feels far more like a 5-threat character, I would say. Interesting if we look at the comparison between him and the other 5-threat that got a big change, which was Ghost Rider. Now, I thought Ghost Rider went from being, I'm not going to say D tier, but C tier, to an A+. This guy was D. He was less than D, right? Him and Bullseye were sat in the changing rooms waiting to be picked, right?
I know, they weren't sat in the changing rooms. They were sat on like the side of the road, like holding signs saying, "We'll do anything for food."
Whilst these are welcome changes to Ebony Maw, and I definitely think he is viable now to fit in a Black Order roster, I can't ever see an example where I'm taking him over any of the other big 5-threat big hitters. And when I say that, I'm now talking about, MODOK, Scarlet Witch, Angela, and I'll also put Ghost Rider in that list now of big 5-threat hitters. I can't see me ever taking him outside of Black Order.
It feels like this might have been a little too safe.
I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. Obviously, we went through him on on our list, but
that I would have liked to have seen is like just that, like the normal power game for a builder. Like, the guaranteed power is nice if you have a bad attack. Black Tongue is by no means a bad attack. It becomes a bad attack when you slap on the single power gain.
Yeah, do you know what? I wouldn't have minded seeing. I think as his card is, but Black Tongue is damage. Sorry, power equal to damage dealt. If you don't deal damage, game one. A
Yeah,
bit like
kind
we've
of like
seen on
Hulkbuster.
Hulkbuster.
Yep.
And that's it, guys, in terms of Black Order cards. We've not had any others. So, Quinn, let's quickly go through these then, because we ranked these previously. Corvus Glaive was ranked, we had him as an A tier previously without the gem. We had him as an S tier with the gem. Where do you think he sits now? I mean, for me, he's probably about the same.
I don't think he moves.
I think he's about the same, isn't he? He's just brought, whereas he was pushing the upper echelon of an A plus and maybe an S plus before, he's now just a good solid S tier and a good solid A tier, with or without the gem. Proxima, it's not going to change her much.
I mean, Proxima is still Proxima, right?
Yeah, you don't play Proxima without Corvus. You will take her out of affiliation, but you'll only take her with Corvus, so she stays pretty much the same. I think I had her as like a B tier, which feels about right, and she's probably still a B tier because she can dish out that damage, can't she? And with that invulnerability, she is a bit tankier than her 3s across the board and 5/5 would lead you to believe. And she's got good placement. Let's not forget that long range, and then the placement off the back end of her spear throw as well. So, yeah, that's quite nice. Ebony Maw. I mean, we broke him down with multiple gems. There's now only 2 options. There's going to either be a 5 threat and a 6 threat. As you'll see, we'll go over the space gem in a second and what's changed there. I'm saying that he's probably gone from a D to a B tier, like middle of the road.
I'd probably put him in a solid C. I still don't think he's very good.
No, I mean, it's such a shame as well, isn't it? Because you want these characters to, when you have a do-over, you want them to be not amazing. They can't make every character amazing. As Will was explaining in the interview the other day, they want still to have really good characters and the characters that are not so good, but they want to try and keep that distance between the very best and the very worst as close as possible. But he's 5 threat in an affiliation that only has 5 characters, and it just needed that little tweak on it. Again, he's going to suffer, Quinn. I'm going to say it from exactly the same problem: power generation. And I think that's going to be the problem with him is his power generation. But time will tell. Now, Quinn, on to and I was quite lucky, wasn't I? I did get a little exclusive on this yesterday, and I was glad I got to get the video out yesterday because otherwise it'd have been a bit strange. But I did speak to Will about what was happening with the gems. And the reason I asked that was mainly for you, Quinn, because I wanted to find out what was happening with the reality. And I've got to say...
We didn't get the answer I wanted.
Well, I've got to say, I was shocked that we didn't get anything with the reality. I thought, as soon as he said that they want every gem to cost 1, first of all, I think that makes sense. Yeah, second of all, it made me go, okay, well, maybe they remove it when you're interacting or something like that, and it would have probably felt okay then. But yeah, they've kept it as it is. Maybe with, because it's only Corvus and it's only Thanos. It doesn't look like it's going to affect. I still think Thanos could be up for a change. Cosmic Portal just feels like it's going to get changed up to once per turn.
With that is Cosmic Portal is only on his healthy side. So once you flip him, it's completely
of course, yes.
And nullifying it when it's the only time you can have it. Basically, whenever you play against Black Order, flip Thanos as quick as you can, because then they lose a great deal of the control that they otherwise have.
Well, that's the other part as well, is that before we get onto the gems with Thanos, his injured side is very poor. And I'm talking more about if you're playing Black Order and that leadership ability. I'm not a big fan of it, to say the least. When he goes to his injured side, but hey ho, I think they could be saving some things for us, Quinn, when they actually reveal all these and we can download them and everything else. So fingers crossed, Thanos is in there. But let's start then, Quinn, with the Space Gem. We nailed this one, mate. We said leave it exactly as it is, make it one threat. And that's what they've done. So it's a one threat card, costs 2 power, place another allied character within range 3, range 2.
Clearly, we are burdened with the gift of prophecy.
Glorious purpose. That's what I like to call it. So, guys, I think this card now has shot up the rankings in terms of how good it is.
Like it. I mean, I've already told you that I'm planning certain things in Guardians with it.
Guardians with it. You can, there are things that you can do turn 1 plays, and I know that, people either love or hate turn 1 plays. I think AMG were a little bit torn on it. I think they don't mind, at least this is the impression I got, Quinn, is that they don't mind turn 1 plays, but they want to make sure that it isn't every single game and that there's some, an element of down to chance, right? Whether or not you get to pull it off. I think this on the Space Gem leans into that turn 1 play quite a lot. But on a Thanos, this just seems really good.
Really getting
good.
these 3 is like super big.
Because who are the Space Gem bearers, Quinn? We've got Thanos. We've got
off the top of my head, Thanos,
Ebony Maw, Loki. That is the other one. Oh yeah, Loki could all of a sudden. Again, it's weird, isn't it? This one card can all of a sudden make Loki seem a bit more viable as well, potentially. Who knows? But Quinn, on to the big one, which is the Time Gem. Now, we covered this briefly in the video with Will, but some big changes. I mean, it's a completely different card. So the first thing is it's dropped its threat down from 2 to 1, which is what we expected. It costs 2 power to play the card. It's now a reactive ability that says when this character is attacking, before the calculate success or failure step at the end of the modified dice step of the attack, so it's attack only, it may use this superpower. The attacking and defending characters re-roll all of their attack and defense dice, including failure results. Very interesting with this one.
Very interesting.
Now, I was thinking about some different plays for this, and people that can wield the Time Gem at the moment. We've obviously got Thanos, we've got Doctor Strange, or the OG Doctor Strange, and then is there one more? Corvus as well, of course.
Now, first, he has a gem other than reality.
He does, yeah. So the first thing I'm going to say is I like this a lot. I think thematically, when you watch, when you watch Infinity War and you see Thanos turning that glove and it rewinding time and it being a do-over, that feels like that is what this is, right? Rather than just I'm moving quicker than everybody else, so I get an extra turn.
It's very akin to how the Eye of Agamotto works on Strange, and obviously in the MCU, the Eye of Agamotto is the Time Stone.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's some real interesting, what I'm going to say, some really interesting shenanigans with this one, because there are certain situations where if you're attacking, you may not even be allowed to modify your dice. However, this would still work on your opponent's defense dice, wouldn't it?
Yes.
So if you're coming up against is it Angela? Angela's one. Medusa's another one, I think.
Angela, Medusa, and I think there might be someone else. Black Cat.
Black Cat, yes, because Venom is when he's attacking you, isn't it?
Yeah, Venom gets rid of cover, basically.
So some really cool applications for this. I think it makes Thanos better than if he gets an extra action. And the reason is he's got a number of wilds. They may change, but at the moment he's got a number of wilds that he can fish for. And his throw is unlimited in size. His push is unlimited in size. And right now, unless you take a Baron Zemo with you, he has no way of being able to manipulate those dice. And
reality gem cough.
Well, I don't see reality. I mean, yes, okay, it is. I actually don't think it's considered dice modification.
It's not considered dice modification.
No,
but
it's not. Yeah, as far as the rules are concerned, but you're right. It is a good gem. However, this I think really helps him out quite a lot.
I would argue
on
that
those attacks.
It's still not as good as the extra action, simply because the extra action can be used for a myriad of different things like mobility, beating down more. I still really like this change, though. As you said, massively thematic. I mean, Doctor Strange is my favorite Marvel superhero. Uses the time gem in the MCU. This feels like how he uses the time gem in the MCU.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. Also, like, a very interesting note with this gem is it was described as recal on a stick, but it has something very different to Recalibration Matrix about it.
And that is
the fact it includes re-rolling skulls.
Skulls, yeah. I was just about to say the skull side of it, which is very interesting, especially when you come up against some characters who thrive on skulls, right?
Like
We've
Wanda.
got Wanda. You've got
anyone with the reality gem.
Well, yeah, anyone with the reality gem as well.
Also Domino.
Yeah, Domino likes them as well. So yeah, very, very, very interesting, and it'll be really interesting to take it for a ride. Actually, with all of the characters that can take it, because all of a sudden now you've got, if you take it on Strange, you've got 2 rerolls per turn. Which seems
going to be one of those interesting things with Strange, because effectively anyone but Thanos has to pay power to use this, and like 2 isn't an exorbitant cost, but it is still a very real cost.
Especially when you're Strange and he doesn't have the soul
when
gem.
you have the power economy of Doctor Strange, like you're generating 1 more every turn, which is really nice. But using this, it can be really good against opponents. The thing about including skulls in the reroll is also somewhat of a detriment to the time gem over Recal Matrix, because effectively you can't lock your opponent's dice with it.
Yeah, if your opponent rolls, 2 skulls and 2 blocks in the past, if you force them to reroll, they wouldn't reroll those 2 skulls, would they? So limiting their dice even more. I think, for me, I'd be considering using this. I'm more concerned with my own dice than my opponent's.
Yeah.
Or if I'm fishing for something, so if you're Strange and you're fishing for something, or if you're Thanos and you're fishing for a wild, because quite often that throw on Thanos or strike actually ends up doing more overall damage than the strike itself.
Than the actual strike itself. Also, once again, coming back to the theme thing, including the skulls definitely fits the theme a lot better than if it were to not include them.
100%. I think it has to, right?
You're doing an entire redo, which means the skulls shouldn't affect it.
Completely agree. I really like it. I think it's so much more thematic than what they had previously. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting to take these new characters out for a spin. Luckily for Daz, he just missed the cutoff, didn't he, for our team tournament? So he still gets to take his OG Black Order, but it'll be interesting to see where they fall in the pecking order now that these changes have kicked in. But overall, Quinn, I'm super happy with them. As I have really, I think with, I think there are some that they could have done a bit more with, but overall, really, really happy with the changes.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the time gem from a thematic standpoint. I'm kind of meh on everything else, but the gem changes themselves, I really do enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's 6 big things that you want to be viable for every character that can carry them, but not be so game breaking that they break the game. Right.
There is also one more thing I've noticed with this. So some of you may know that there are set symbols included on basically any card that isn't a character card. So tactics cards, gems, and crisis cards, all that kind of stuff, have little icons in the bottom right-hand corner of them. The first set was a Spider-Man set. Yeah, it's a hammer now.
Yeah, very
So you have
interesting.
a Spider-Man set, you've got an X-Men set, there's a one that's like sort of a cityscape, and now we've got a Hammer set, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Guys, but with that, that leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.
See you.